Is it on? All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the last and therefore most awesome session of Unite 2014. I'm Patrick Curry, and joining me is Nathan Hanners. We're here to talk about Unity Cloud Build, formerly known as Sugi. So quick poll of the audience. How many of you guys saw the talk we gave earlier in the week? Okay, a couple hands. How many of you have tried Unity Cloud Build Beta? One, okay, yes, people who make it, awesome. All right, cool. Well then, this will be an introduction for you guys. We're gonna try a live demo, Wi-Fi willing. If not, we'll use our slides. And then answer your questions about the new service, Unity Cloud Build. So to start, first a little bit of backstory. We, the team who made Unity Cloud Build, we used to be game developers. We worked at a bunch of famous and sometimes infamous game studios. These are some of the video games that we worked on and contributed to. So lots of fun console games, lots of action games. And we solved a lot of big game problems as game developers. And we started making mobile games. We thought, we made console games. We're gonna show these mobile guys how it's done. And worked on some pretty big mobile games as well. Big as in like complexity and megabytes, not necessarily in revenue. And what we learned is that making mobile games is actually really hard. It has its own set of challenges that are very different than from console games. You know, it's a different audience, different devices, different markets, different business models. And even when you're using Unity, which solves a lot of the problems of making cross-platform mobile games, there's still a lot to do. And one of the most painful processes in the entire thing is just making builds, like making a build of an app so that the artist can test his work on his device, making a build of an app and getting it to your client who's paying you to make that app. It's a big pain. And so we made software for ourselves because we're big automation geeks, and we made it happen for us. And we then decided that should be a company. We should just do that. That became Sugi. And now, with the acquisition we announced Wednesday, we're now Unity Austin, and we're creating Unity Cloud Build. And our mission is to do what we've been doing for the last few years, which is automating the game development process, making it suck less, and make your lives a little bit easier as developers. And so I'm going to let Nate kind of introduce you guys to the service and take it over.
Thank you.
Take it away, Nate.
Hey, I'm Nathan Hanners. I'm the product manager for Unity Cloud Build. So yeah, like Patrick said, the process of making games is not easy. There's a lot of management of builds and people who are testing which builds, and the VP wants a special latest build, and then the artists are trying to ask the build engineer to make a new build for them so they can look at their texture on a Retina display and on their device, and then the build engineer just keeps snowballing, right? The complexity and the number of people involved. So we want to make that process much easier on everybody, and we feel like we figured that out. So our goal, or what we think the product does, is it's making your life better and making your game better because you can spend more time dealing with your game and not worrying about trying to deal with Jenkins or any of this craziness. Here's how it works. You have to be using source control. Right now, we support Git and SVN and Perforce. Once you connect us to your repo, we just watch it, and whenever we notice there's been a new commit, we kick off new builds. You get an email telling you what the status is. Did the build succeed? Did it fail? If it fails, we give you a little compact build log. If it succeeded, there's install links. And that really tight, simple workflow, like you don't have, the core of the service, you don't even have to be logged into the interface. You can just be working away using whatever your source control client is, doing commits, and emails pop up with telling you how it's going. People in the beta have found this really valuable. You know when the builds are breaking, even when it's not you who's making the build. Someone commits some stuff, it starts breaking, someone gets yelled at. Usually it's me. But yeah, it's super valuable service. From your perspective, it doesn't interfere with your workflow at all. You're basically doing what you did anyway, committing to source control, and now these little emails are popping up telling you, giving you announcements and data about the build you made and whether it succeeded. But we really feel like there's also an opportunity to add a lot of value at the UI, at the interface level. So I'm going to give you a live demo. And let's see here. So here's the interface. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. I'm logged in. This is the project screen, right? So I'm logged in. I've got a couple of projects building, that are configured. They're not building now, but you can see for this example, Unity test, here's my latest successful build for the web player. And I don't have any other builds configured for this. I'm only building for web player. Our buddies at Camouflage, here you can see they've got iOS building. Android, I don't think, this is probably connected to dev, so they don't have any Android builds here. But this indicates that they've configured Android to build. There's just no successes yet, if that was the case. And if I drill into a project, this isn't a very exciting build history. Let me see if I can find a better one. Maybe this one. This isn't going to be that exciting either. So yeah, typically you'd see all your archive of builds here. I'll show you the screenshot for this one because it's a little bit more informative. So the project page we just looked at, you can see here, these projects are configured to build for iOS, Android, and web players. So the latest successful builds for each of those is here. When you come here on a phone, we are responsive and adaptive, so we push the builds for that device to the top, but you can untick the box and it'll show you just the same kind of listing it does on the desktop browser interface. So here's a much bit longer build history. This is all the builds for this project that's building for multiple build targets. So you can see we've got successes, some pending, some stuff building. We got this timestamp. We've got the duration of the build, and this is where you can also install or create a share link for a build. So anything that's a success, you can click the share link and it'll pop up a little link that you can send out. And this is publicly accessible. The only thing, in this case, it's iOS, so you can see there's a little note that says, yeah, you can send this link out for people to install, but you're going to have to have included their UDIDs in your mobile provision file, just like everyone has to. But it's a public link, a la Dropbox or something, and you can also come back here and revoke it. So you don't have to try to manage like who's got what links. You can just, if you don't want people to install a version anymore, you just revoke the link and it goes away, and you can send them out the new one. Of course, with Android and Web Player, you don't have to worry about the provision device thing. We've also got, if you drill into a build's results, we've got build details. Let me show you while I do this. I'm going to configure a build to start. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to select Add New, and we have some, under our Sugi GitHub repo, we have some example projects. So this is just a really simple Unity app.
Do Angry Bots.
Angry Bots?
Yeah.
All right. We'll try to do Angry Bots. Let me find it.
It's example Unity Angry Bots.
Patrick has all
I'll
the
type it
repos. You have all the repos memorized.
You talk, I'll type.
Okay. So, yeah, what we're going to do right now is we're going to use one of our, we have some public GitHub repos we have like vanilla Unity projects stored in. And as you can see, we use them so often that he's memorized the GitHub URL. Okay. So, yeah, so we could come here and copy
There's
and
the
paste.
GitHub project.
Yeah. You could just paste the GitHub URL right in here. So this is interesting because it's going to, since it's a public repo, we get to skip all the way through these other steps. Actually, I was going to show them one thing. Do you still have that URL copy pasted?
Mm-hmm.
Go back and change it to some nonsense so it'll simulate like if it was a private repo. So like if you just change the name to something wrong, right? So excellent. So this is what you'd see if it was a private repo, right? It would say, oh, we think this is Git on GitHub. You're going to need to use this SSH key that we've made for you. And you would go and paste that into your GitHub account. And then you would be able to just skip ahead. So now we'll use the proper repo. But if it's public, we can skip all that stuff. So we can detect if it's accessible to us or not. And you get to skip all the way to step 4. The reason we skip step 3 would be where you, in the case of Git, you'd pick a branch if you wanted to. But in this case, there's only one branch, so you get to skip that step too. Type in your bundle ID. Of course, later on, you're going to have to, if you want to build for iOS, at some point, you're going to have to match the bundle ID and your app ID and your mobile provision file, and your cert has to be the same. We'll catch that error and tell you if it doesn't match. But yeah, then you can pick your Unity version. You can peg it to the latest that we offer, or you can say, no, I want to always to build with 4.5.2 or something. Tick off the platforms you want to build for, and whether you want us to always be building like continuous integration style when we notice changes, or if you just want to do that manually. In the case of Android, you can skip the whole credentials and just use the dev key store. iOS is going to ask you for creds. I actually don't think I have any on my computer right now.
But we have a tutorial for how to go get a mobile provision and .p12 file and all those fun hoops Apple makes us jump through. We'll skip iOS for now.
And so now if everything goes according to plan, it'll just start building, and we'll, yeah. And so here it's saying, OK, looks like we can build it. We'll let you know once there's something to look at. And so here's the page where it's got the pending builds. And so eventually, once that's ready, it usually takes, what, 7 minutes, 8 minutes or so?
This one's a little longer. It's Angry Bots.
Oh, it's Angry Bots. So we'll get an email that tells us, hey, this is ready. But you can come here and add collaborators. So these are people who you want to access this interface and all this stuff. If you add someone here, if they're not already in Unity Cloud Build, they'll get an invite. And if they are, then the project just shows up in their projects list. They can do everything you can do except delete the app. But they can add other collaborators as well. It's a really flat, simple user model. We also have some stats, which right now for this project, there probably won't be too much stat love.
No stats.
There's no stats yet, but yeah. Eventually, when you get enough builds, we can tell you your build health, like the percentage of successes versus failures. Yeah, there's a screenshot, actually, if you want to bounce over to the PowerPoint. Yeah, so this is what the stats page looks like, right? So, and we have a lot of really great ideas for how to give you more project intelligence about how your development project is going in terms of like tracking your asset sizes over time. So this page is going to be really cool as we keep adding more and more value to it. Let's see. Do you want to look at one of the support pages? So we've got a pretty cool support section. We're trying to help you avoid all the mistakes that we used to make. In terms of how to get set up your iOS credentials, how to use source control with Unity Cloud Build. It's actually not particularly specific to us, but there's some things that are helpful to know. You can actually submit support tickets through our interface if you're not comfortable discussing your project in the Unity forums. But we're in both places now. We're in the forum and in the support system, so you could use either of those avenues to help us figure out how to unblock your project. Out of curiosity, how many of you are using source control already when you're working in Unity? Okay, yeah.
All right, about half.
Cool.
And why don't we check on that build? All right, they're both building, and we'll come back and look at those in another minute. So let's talk about why you should use Unity Cloud Build. So for us, number one is that the manual process of making builds is a time-consuming process. Switching platforms takes time on a build machine. It ties up build machines. If you have an emergency request and need to make a lot of builds really quickly, smoke starts pouring out of your Mac Mini that's sitting in a corner, and that's no good. But not only that, the other benefit is that everyone on your team can then test their own work, right? So when the artist commits some new graphics to the build, they immediately get an email that says, hey, here's your build with your new artwork in it. They can see it on their device. When your audio guy changes all the placeholder audio files to be the real audio files, he can get an email right away, check it out, play the game, and test his own work. And then he can make changes and correct and polish and tune and really iterate on stuff without having to wait on someone kicking off a manual build for them. So it really empowers your whole team to be more productive. Next, another great side benefit is that you catch problems sooner, right? When the build breaks, you're going to know about it within the hour. You're going to know, more or less who broke it and why it broke, and then you can fix it. So then you fix it sooner, and it just cuts down the amount of time between the time that you broke the build and the time that you have the fix, right? Often you get a build and, oh, it didn't work, and oh, that was a change Patrick made 2 days ago. What was it? And it's like, I don't know. I don't remember what I was doing 2 days ago. So I have to go back and spend time looking at what I was doing. But if I get an email 30 minutes after I break something saying, hey, Patrick, you broke it, I'm like, oh, right, that thing I was just doing. Oh, yeah, I know what that is. I'll fix it right now. So it's a great efficiency in that way as well. And also you can much, much more easily share builds with your team, with clients, with the boss, right? Get builds to the people who matter sooner. Makes everyone's lives better. So can you use Cloud Build? Yes, absolutely, if you meet these criteria. First off, it's an exclusive beta for Unity Pro customers. If you're using Git, SVN, or Perforce for source control, you can set it up right now. And right now we build for iOS, Android, and the web player. And of course, we're adding more platforms and features all the time. So check out the beta. It's free. And overall, I want you to save time, iterate faster, and be as awesome as possible. So that's the URL. The beta is at build.cloud.unity3d.com. So check it out. And we'll now open it up to questions. Yes, in the back.
So for provisioning for iOS, is the system you guys have in place, if a user downloads it, you have their UDID, they have a provisioning profile, does it prompt them to install a provisioning profile? Because I just do that for request line, or do they have to do the old method where you use like iTunes to actually install provisioning profile?
So the question is that do we prompt users to install a provisioning profile?
So if a user has an iOS device,
Yep.
and I've included their UDID, provisioning profile distributed with that bill.
Yes.
And they download it on their device.
Yes.
Does it install the provisioning profile automatically on their device when it installs and downloads from your service, or do they have to manually install the provisioning profile themselves?
So there's not a manual iTunes step. The user installs the build and the provisioning profile at the same time through the cloud service.
Okay.
The user still has to be provisioned for the app. But the other kind of nice benefit is that if you're making an app and you get a new UDID from Nate gets a new iPhone 12, that's not a product announcement. He gets a new UDID, he adds it to his provisioning profile, or I add it to the provisioning profile. I then upload it to the cloud build service. The next build has his device. He's notified about it. He can install it. And we also double check UDIDs, so we try not to let you download it and waste time if you can't actually install it at the end of the day.
It'll tell you you're not provisioned if you try
Yep.
before you download it.
Good question. Yes.
First, do you support, let's say, VPN connection to a internal network?
So the question is, do we support VPN connections? Not in an automated fashion yet, but yes. So email us, come talk to us, and we'll figure that out for you.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of more building platforms and more source control support. I mean, we are using Fastly, for example.
Yep. So the next question was, there's more platforms and more source control systems, and yeah, we're gathering user feedback right now and deciding which platforms to support next, which source control sources to support next. So if you have specific needs, the best thing to do is email us or just come talk to us today. We're here, and tell us what you need. Yes.
We use a custom build process for different environments and different configurations. How does it exactly work in your end? How you customize that build?
Like pre and post processing.
So right now, we haven't exposed a ton of customization options, but I can tell you what's coming. So we plan to expose a series of static methods in Unity that you can call in your build process. So say, hey, when the editor loads initially, run this command before you make a build. Make the build after the build is made, run this other command. We've used those types of scripts often for building asset bundles and things like that. So we're going to probably wrap those all up into one particular feature so that we'll let you customize the code that's run in the editor. We tell you where the build is uploaded, and then we also say, hey, here's some asset bundles we built for you, and where they live in the cloud. Yes?
In that process, is there any way to get information from source control? For instance, like our build process, we grab this number, we embed that in our GDA.
Yes. Yes, that's a great question. So the question is, can you get information about source control into the build? And I don't think we do yet, but the thing that's planned is basically a manifest that says, hey, here's what's up with this build. It was built at this time, from this revision, from this source control host, all that sort of metadata you want about the build number, and put that in your build, so you can then do things like either put that into code callbacks you do something with, display it to the screen, whatever you want to do with that. But basically have a standard format that says, here's this file, and inside of it, here's what's up with it. Great question. Yes, Finn.
The collaborators, teammates, clients, do you have parameters on there so that maybe, like if you add collaborators, you give them that ability to or not to be able to add more collaborators?
More sophisticated
Right.
role management stuff, yeah.
And then like you don't want your client getting every
Yeah.
build update and stuff like that.
Right.
Can you specify those? And then kind of part of that was like if you're talking about like the artist
Right. So I'm kind of hearing two questions at once. The first is about, do we have tiers of collaborators? The answer is no, not yet. Right now, we basically have the two extremes. We have a collaborator who right now gets full project access, can do everything except nuke it. And then we have anonymous sharing links. So you can generate a share link. You can send that to anyone. You can send that to one person. You can put that on your forum if you want, your beta community to try it out. But we really want to hear from you guys what you want those middle access levels to be, and we'll go from there. So it's important for us to get the two cases, and then we'll automate the rest. The other request we got was a always latest share link. So you could make a share link that says, hey, here's the latest good web build, and it'll update over time. And so we're going to look into that as well. And then you had another question, or did I answer both?
That was pretty much both. It's just, I mean, it was kind of the same thing of like, could I, so if I have the whole team all.
Oh, right.
Update.
Yeah, so the thing that we would recommend you do there is that you kind of create micro projects for people, right? So if you have a specific branch, you say, hey, you know what, the engineering team is going to be on this branch. They're going to get an email every 15 minutes, but they're smart. They can filter email and deal with it. The art team is working off of this other branch. It's configured to build slightly differently. They get those emails. We see a lot of big teams especially roll like that. Good question. Yes, here in the front. We're almost out of time.
Sorry, two questions. First, the person that you share with, do they have to have source control as well? Or do you just share a build?
No. So your collaborators, they don't have to really know anything about making games or writing code. That's a great question. They just have to know how to click on a link in their email and install it.
And then the second question is, do you foresee in the future being able to, people who do PC standalone or console development use build?
Yes, that's another great question. The question is, do we expect to do PC build support or console? So PC is next, overwhelming. Everyone here is like, yo, desktop. So we're going to go back to the lab and work on that. And we'd love to do console. That's a larger conversation with us and the first parties. But those conversations are. We're talking about it. I can say that. That's right. All right. I think we're just about out of time. But just come on up, talk to us. We got the team here. Love to answer your questions and try it out. Oh, you're killing me.
Sorry, can you choose the Xcode version that you want?
Yes. So you can choose the Xcode version. We only support
4 and 5.
We're currently building with Xcode 5.1 as the default. We do, there are periods where Apple is accepting submissions for multiple Xcodes. Usually there will be an option. Worth noting, of course, is Apple tends to be pretty time restrictive over which versions of Xcode will accept submissions from at any point in time. 6 is coming, so we expect an option to appear when 6 comes
Yeah.
out. But again, knowing Apple, once they start accepting with 6, the time horizon of when 5.1 will be useful for our language. So we have that ability, but there's often not a real choice to make.
Yeah.
So it's just something to be aware of, obviously.
All right. Thank you very much for coming. And yeah, we'll see you online very soon.